These are the last days of Prohibition, and this show seeks to feature the stories of the founders, the investors, the marketers that are bridging the gap. We are at a crucial point in our history here. I do this show for people exactly like you, people that want to learn about cannabis, want to invest in cannabis. Maybe you're thinking about starting a company. Maybe you have a conservative job and you can't yet come out to the world. The day of getting a little dime bag from your guy on the corner is done. It's not happening. You're having it delivered medicinally today. In my opinion, in 18 months, you're going to have it delivered completely recreationally, completely legal, right? Really sweet show lined up for you today. We have Kyle of PrestoDoctor, a good friend of mine. We're going to kind of riff on a couple different topics. Legalization in California, legalization federally, the presidential election that's coming up, what's going on with SpeedWeed, the delivery service in LA. We get into a lot of good stuff here. What's happened to DARE? DARE has finally come out and said that cannabis is not a gateway drug. What a massive breakthrough for education and our children. It's a really great episode, guys. Stick around, listen up, get acquainted. So we have my good friend Kyle here from PrestoDoctor. PrestoDoctor was on the show way back when. I think it was episode 3 or something like that. We had your co-founder Rob. And so he's back here today. He's going to give us a little update on Presto. And then we're going to kind of chop up some news stories and have a little fun with us. How are you, man? Thanks for being here.
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
So what's going on with Presto? Maybe just give them a quick one-liner what Presto is and how you guys are doing.
Yeah. So PrestoDoctor is, of course, the #1 rated online medical cannabis evaluation service. So you can get your card online. All you have to do is just go to our website, PrestoDoctor.com. You can schedule an appointment same day with one of our doctors and get your card the same day. It's super easy. We've had thousands of happy customers and people are raving about it. So
that's awesome. And it's so fast. It's so easy, right? I had a friend that did it just a week or so ago and he signed up and an hour later he had it and he was good to go.
Yeah. People are always amazed by it, but we spend a lot of time optimizing it and making sure it's as easy and smooth of a process as possible. Just because I want to make it a good experience for everybody.
Yeah, and what's the next step? I mean, how do you scale this? How do you how do you get to the rest of California? I guess for the moment.
Yeah. So it's we're definitely scaling up right now. The company is growing. We just moved into a new office. Great office. We got a couple employees that are starting in started within the last month or so.
Nice.
So we're just trying to keep up with the traffic, but we're also expanding into multiple markets. We're getting pretty big in Southern California now, LA and San Diego, of course the Bay Area here where we're based.
And how does that work? I mean, because you don't have a physical presence in the new market, is it about ad spend in that market, or how does that work?
Yeah, it's a little bit of it's kind of a marketing play. A little bit of advertising, a little bit of a street team. You get people to start spreading the word. Most people, they still don't know that this service exists, and they're surprised it's a real thing. So it's mostly an educational. We just got to make people aware that the service exists, and once they use it, of course, they're never going back to their regular traditional cannabis doctor.
Right. Yeah.
Because
that takes time.
Which people don't have. It's a shortage of time today.
Are you concerned at all with the upcoming legislation that sort of this format of video for prescribing recommendations? Is that going to go away? Is that a concern that you guys have?
No, we're not too concerned about that. California is one of the more progressive states in telehealth anyway, and they actually have some laws about telehealth already.
Like
yes.
that. Okay.
So you can see telehealth is here, and it's big at hospitals. My insurance carrier right now is Aetna, and they're going big into the telehealth. They have their own doctor telehealth platform, and they're definitely spending a lot of money and going big on that. So I can't see it really going any other way in California specifically, but also the rest of the country, they're starting to catch up. Going to the doctor's office is not necessary 90% of the time, and you just have to sit there in the waiting room, fill out a bunch of paperwork manually, and there's a lot of redundancies that can just be eliminated through this easier online process, and that's where we're headed. And I think that's going to be the future of just general healthcare as well as specifically for cannabis.
Yeah, I think the interesting about telehealth is whenever I've gone to the doctor in person, even if it's just for a checkup, they always seem to find something wrong with me, right? And I think if you do the telehealth thing, you're generally doing it for a specific purpose, and maybe you save a little time there. I mean, I think that's the way it's going. It's more of like a concierge sort of
tailored experience there, right?
Yep.
So the one thing I always really loved about your business is it's relatively low overhead, right? I mean, you kind of created this technology. You come from a technology background like I do, and so the scalability is really, really feasible in that area. But I think one of the big barriers, as we kind of get into this legislation mode a little bit, is you need to be able to have doctors make recommendations for patients in other states. Right? So, I mean, do you have any feeling for how that's coming online? Are there any other states that recognize doctors from other states now?
Yeah, so that's an interesting question, and it really is something where a lot of research is required in each additional state. We've been looking at, obviously all of the states that have medical cannabis, but it's an interesting balance on finding the states that have medical cannabis plus the telehealth laws that will allow for an online consultation with the doctor. A lot of states are just a little bit behind in that. Some of them explicitly prohibit it, whereas others, there's nothing on the books about it, and it may be legal, it may be not, but we have to spend a lot of legal time researching that. So as far as it goes right now, California is definitely the biggest target market. We're just going after California. There are a couple other states that are on our radar that we're looking to expand into, and obviously we need doctors, and we have doctors that are licensed to practice in those other states as well.
What's the one that's top on the list?
Nevada is obviously one of the ones we're looking at closely, since they have a medical cannabis program now, and
fascinating that you can be a California patient and go to Nevada, or specifically Las Vegas, and then participate in their medical program. I mean, super smart, right?
Yeah, definitely. A lot of people like to go to Vegas and whatnot, and or just anywhere in Nevada, really. But now you can travel and use your California recommendation and your California ID, and you'll be allowed to go into any Nevada dispensary as well. So it really is it's one of the more progressive policies, and I really appreciate what they're doing there.
Yeah.
Yeah, as opposed to some other states where they don't accept anything except for their own state's recommendations.
If that, right? If that, they're like stingy about that.
Yeah, definitely.
Which may lend itself well to allowing them to have doctors from California do the recommendations too.
Yeah, so
I'm sure it's not decided yet, but
yeah, most states still require that the doctor is licensed to practice in their state, because the medical boards in different states, they like to keep an eye on the doctors and making sure that they're compliant and not doing anything weird, right? They want to make sure that the doctors are up to par. So it's a little bit harder to regulate if a California doctor is practicing in another state. But that being said, as long as they're licensed to practice, the doctor can be anywhere. It's really a great thing that a doctor can be licensed in multiple states, and using telehealth, they can practice in multiple states versus having to be physically located in all of these states, and then they can only practice it one at a time.
Yeah. On the regulation kick here, on the same trend, we're in an election year, right? 2016, we're going to decide a president, as well as it looks like adult use full recreational will be on the ballot here. It's not finalized. I think that happens in July or something, according to Google 10 minutes ago. But yeah, in addition to president, we're going to decide whether California should have not medical, but recreational full adult use cannabis. And a lot of people talk about this in a grandiose way, right? Yeah, I want to be able to smoke weed everywhere. Well, I got news for you. I do smoke weed everywhere. We live in San Francisco, and most parts of California, that's really not an issue. What is particularly interesting about it is the economics behind it. And instead of wondering what may happen, Sean Parker, who is of Napster fame and a big angel investor, owns a bunch of Facebook, he is very pro-cannabis, and he has set out a plan here, and I'm going to read it so I don't get any of the facts wrong. But he has proposed a bill. It's yet to be established whether that will be on the ballot or not yet. But it would enact a sales tax of 15% on any cannabis purchase, which is in addition to the 7.5% or 8% that we have in California for sales tax already. And then it would be an additional cultivation tax. So anybody that's growing it is going to pay $9.25 per ounce of flowers. Right, so for every ounce of actual weed, $9.25, we kind of came to a round number that maybe a wholesale price of cannabis by the ounce is about $100 in California. So we're looking at roughly like 9–10% there as well. And then 2.75 per ounce for leaves, right? So this is kind of the shake. Interesting that they chose to tax that as well. I understand why they did, but that's not a very profitable part of the plant, right? I mean, is that greedy? It's kind of a little greedy of the state, right?
Yeah. It's I mean, I'm sure that they were just trying to cover any loopholes, you know, just before it becomes a problem. Maybe that's something that some of the other states that have gone recreational have seen. I'm sure that, you know, there was a reason for doing that. At the end of the day, you know, like if you consider tax a greed, then yes, the government is greedy. They're trying to get our money. But in the end, if it results in cannabis becoming recreational in California, I think it's a fair price to pay. If you look at the other states that have gone recreational so far, I think it looks like this is most similar to Colorado's policy. They have, I believe, it's a 10% tax on the recreational purchases of cannabis. Plus, there's an excise tax, which sounds very similar to the tax for the growers that you specified.
Right.
So it seems like it's about.
And that's a tax that's already built into the price in Colorado, right?
So they have to raise the prices in order to.
Right. They're passing that along in some form.
Yeah. So it's still the consumer ends up paying more at the end of the day. The higher the taxes are, no matter who's paying the taxes, it's going to get passed on to the consumer. And that's just, you know, that's the way it's going to happen.
It seems like the proposed bill in California is very similar to the one in Colorado in actuality, but it's written in a very different way. And I guess that's kind of politics as usual. Us as cannabis tech people, we don't really understand that. It's more about efficiency, but politics is a nasty game. While we're on the politics subject, we have to talk about the pending election. I guess in my mind, there's really only three possibilities. I know there's other nominees out there still, but it looks like it's a Bernie, Hillary, Trump sort of election here. I guess first of all, let's start on the Democratic side, just for fun. Like Bernie's pro cannabis, right? But does that mean you're absolutely for him? Are you all in behind him?
Yeah, I'm 100% in on Bernie Sanders. He's in my mind, he's the best candidate. Specifically, you know, he's obviously very pro-cannabis, which is good for the industry as a whole. You know, I think he's very sensible in a lot of his policies, specifically about, you know, just decriminalizing cannabis. Right? People shouldn't be going to jail for half their life just because they have some pot on them. And these type of things just make sense and resonate with me specifically. You know, it's with any presidential candidate, nobody's going to agree 100% on 100% of the policies. So there may be some slight differences, but in my mind, he will be the candidate who benefits the cannabis community the most. And just overall, he seems like the most honest.
Seems like a really nice guy.
Yeah, he seems like a pretty stand-up guy. He doesn't have the politician aspect to him as much as the other candidates.
He's not as slick.
Yeah, he's not trying to sneak anything by.
Do you know if Hillary has come out on cannabis? Has she made a statement about it? Do you know?
Not off the top of my head. I just know that she's definitely hasn't said anything pro cannabis. You know, she seems to be a little bit more on the conservative side as far as.
Which is very interesting because she probably is pro cannabis, but she's chosen to sort of go after a demographic that is maybe slightly more towards the center, preparing for her, you know, after she gets nominated, if she does get nominated. Let's take it to the other side. Everybody is fucking petrified that Donald Trump is going to be the next president of our country.
Yes, they should be.
And even though I do like a great deal of entertainment value in my president, I have to say it's a little concerning if you're in the cannabis industry. He hasn't come out directly against it, but I have heard reports of him being very, very critical of his kids partaking in any of that, and very, very critical as to their sobriety and sort of, he certainly doesn't in his own right. Does that make you nervous as a cannabis founder?
Yes and no. I am nervous for the country if Donald Trump is president. It's
for many other reasons.
Yes, it's just.
But we're gonna win again, man. We gotta win. We don't win anymore. We gotta win.
Make America great again. Yes. I hate that phrase. Make America great again.
America is fucking great right now.
Right now.
Yeah.
Make us great again, implying that we're not great. That's off-putting to me. But the part that concerns me with Donald Trump is that I saw some recent statistics. You know, and take this with a grain of salt because I have no idea how accurate it is, but somebody predicted that if Donald Trump were to gain the Republican nomination, he has a 97 to 99% chance of winning the overall election.
Yeah.
And that's very concerning to me, right? There are some other I would say, more qualified Republican candidates. But Donald Trump seems to be...
Kasich seems to be reasonable and know what he's talking about. He has no chance of winning, unfortunately.
There's a few that are currently standing up to Trump. If Trump does get the nomination, then I fear for the country. And this is I think Donald Trump is a good man overall, but some of the things he says and some of the policies he wants to enact, I don't think would necessarily be.
It's a headline culture, right? I mean, he created a reality show for a decade. He knows exactly what he's doing. He's capitalizing on the people that really aren't paying attention that closely, in my opinion, because true conservatives that are really intelligent also don't like Donald Trump. So, but more power to him. I don't really want to hate on Donald Trump because he's kind of gotten this far with smoke and mirrors and like winning. So more on the regulation side here. SpeedWeed is having some serious problems in Los Angeles. This is not new. LA is not a big fan of delivery, of medical marijuana delivery. What do you think this means? I mean, they've said they've filed a lawsuit, the city of Los Angeles, saying that they're going to impose a $5,000 a day price tag fine on SpeedWeed continuing to do it. I mean, is it possible they're making enough money that they just don't care and they're going to pay that?
It definitely could be possible. If we run the math here, $5,000 is approximately $150,000 a month. I know some of the top dispensaries in this area clear over $1 million a month in revenue.
Yeah.
I have no idea how well SpeedWeed is doing. I assume that they're not that big, but it could be possible that they're making enough money to cover that and they're just going to pay the fines and keep on operating. The thing about LA is that it's interesting because there's obviously demand for many more dispensaries and delivery services than there are. I believe at one point there was 700 or so dispensaries and delivery services in LA, and there was a law passed trying to restrict that down to 100 and between 100 and 200. I can't remember the specific number. So they're definitely going after these dispensaries and shutting them down, and it's a real problem because the people are speaking. They want to be able to purchase cannabis, and they don't want to have to drive all the way across LA in traffic to go purchase it. Right. So if there's a more convenient location to them, then it makes sense. But unfortunately, the city doesn't want to license those, and it's fully within their right to shut them down, and that's because it's the law in the city. So the dispensaries and the delivery services that open up there that are openly practicing without being licensed and fully in knowledge that their business is illegal, this is a risk that they're taking, that they can get shut down at any time, or they might have to pay a large amount of fines.
I suppose the most frustrating part here is that the city attorney of Los Angeles is not consistent about it, right? So I would actually be okay if he said, okay, look, delivery is dangerous. It involves a lot of cannabis and cash in a car at the same time. I know they've had some issues with crime in South Central LA, etc. It would be one thing if he said, okay, we're not going to have delivery in LA anymore. But then for him also to systematically limit the number of physical dispensary locations they have really doesn't jive. And what that says to me is that he's just trying to put a clamp down on cannabis in general. Is that the way you see it?
Yeah, it's I definitely I don't know the man and I don't know his personal agenda, his personal policies, so I obviously can't speak, but to that effect. But from the way it looks, I would say that he's obviously not the most pro cannabis person out there. That being said, he's also just a man trying to enforce the law that was written into effect. That the people voted for it, and that's the way it is. And it could be that he loves cannabis and he smokes himself, but unfortunately his job is that he has to enforce the law.
That was extremely diplomatic of you there, Kyle.
Well, thank you.
I like that answer. PrestoDoctor coming soon to Los Angeles County. No, I mean, I guess it just it brings up a question of whether we should have delivery, right? I mean, Washington and Colorado have said that they're not going to have any delivery, although Oregon, which has more recently come online, has said that they're going to allow delivery here. California, obviously, we have medical marijuana delivery, but still a lot to be said as to whether when this is adult use, when we have recreational marijuana, if delivery will persist. What's your opinion? I mean, do we need to have delivery?
Yeah, I'm all for delivery. I think it's a valuable service that actually provides real benefit. At PrestoDoctor, we help tons of patients that actually have real chronic conditions where it's very hard for them to get out of the house. And it's definitely easier for them to see a doctor from their home via our platform. But also then if they have to go drive out to a dispensary, some of them don't drive, they have to call up somebody to come give them a ride, and it's just a painful experience for them. Whereas if they can just order delivery, it's not a problem at all, and it's really a helpful service for them. Obviously, a lot of people will use it just because it's more convenient, and that's another side of it as well. I personally don't like going to the other side of town when I don't have to, when I can just get something delivered to me. And like you said with the crime part of it too, obviously it's not the best idea if you have marijuana plus cash. It's an obvious target.
The issue there is cash.
Yeah, the issue is cash. If more companies could accept credit cards and debit cards online, just place the order. It's more like Uber. You just pay, and then there's no cash transaction, and you get the product. And I think that would eliminate most of the problem right there. Just having a large stockpile of cash.
Yeah. So I'm a little biased. I work for a company that makes delivery software, right? But I think what I've come to realize is that delivering cannabis is not so different from delivering almost anything else. It has some high value to it, but there's plenty of other examples. Alcohol is a great one, where alcohol is distributed and regulated very easily in large quantities with lots of money on the line. And it's almost like that lack of regulation is creating more danger there. And I hope as we look forward and we do go to legalize this, that we realize that, like, okay, these things are possible. We're also delivering prescription medication places, right? Which has a lot of danger, potential risk to it. So very interesting. Going to be fascinating to see how that comes together in LA and what that means for companies like Meadow and Ease and all the other just individual dispensaries in Southern California. Is this a precedent that's going to permeate other counties? It's going to be fascinating to find out. Hopefully, we can get this on the ballot and legalize recreational use before that's an issue. Yeah. So if we do get this recreationally legal, it makes it onto the ballot, which I expect it to, and then we pass it as a state. Is medical gonna persist? Is that something that we need? I think in other states you've seen it taxed at different rates or not taxed because it's medicine. I don't necessarily use cannabis like medicine. I think it has medicinal properties, but do you want to see medical persist after legalization happens?
Yeah, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but I think medical will definitely persist after recreational happens. For two reasons. One is just that a lot of people have their medical recommendations now and will want to pay a lower rate, and that's just more of a loophole, but that's not something that we're interested in. There is a ton of medical research going into cannabis right now, and it's actually increasing at an enormous rate right now, and it's very exciting to see the actual medical benefits that can come from cannabis. There's tons of people that they don't want to get high. They're not trying to get high. They're just trying to use cannabis as a pain reliever or help them to sleep or for a variety of number of reasons. And if more money goes into the actual research side of it, and we can isolate the certain parts of cannabis that help people with these conditions that they're having, I think that would be huge. Not everybody not everybody likes getting high, and not everybody wants to get high. Obviously the recreational side of it will probably be more people trying to get high, and that's fine. It's just two different kind of ends of the spectrum here, and obviously at PrestoDoctor we're investing more heavily on the medical side of it and the medical applications of cannabis, and I think that there's a very strong future there, not only in California but in all of the other states that are medical right now, as well as if the country someday finally legalizes it, there's going to be a huge explosion of medical research in that as well. All the labs that can't do it right now because they might receive federal funding or are afraid of federal backlash, so they're just staying away. But if it were legal at the federal level, there's so many companies that could go into this and just start finding out many new applications for it.
There's no question. We have to fund the research of cannabis further, whether that's privately or publicly. It really doesn't matter, but we have to know more about it. We have to know not just the downsides, which have been analyzed. That's the part that has been tested in research, but the tremendous medical benefits that come from the non-psychoactive cannabinoids, THCA, CBD. We just did a clip about that. If it's like, we'll link that over here or something. But but yeah, I think I see a massive operational problem where if they just if we get adult legal, right, we vote that into office, and then we say that medical is going to persist. But we're not going to tax it, or we're going to tax it at a lower rate than what we do recreational. I have a user, I'm sort of in a issue, right, where it's like, I could continue being a patient and paying this less or no tax, or I can purchase it recreationally. And so as a state, do we say, okay, well, effective now, your medical recommendation is no longer good, right? You have to go get re-verified. I mean, you would almost have to, right? Otherwise, you would have people constantly abusing the system, in my opinion, as they do today. But
I think it won't be as big of an issue as you think. A medical recommendation is it will have to be still a valid recommendation. You can't take back a doctor's words after they write them, and I assume that they'll still be valid once this happens.
But you could not allow them to renew it, right? Like that, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, if the legislation went into effect, maybe they would put more stringent requirements for getting the medical recommendation. Right now in California, it's pretty open-ended. There's a ton of different conditions that you can use to qualify for medical cannabis, and I can't imagine that they're going to decrease the amount of conditions or make it too much harder to get a medical recommendation, just because...
You think they're just going to capture the market that never wanted to go get a medical card and the loss of potential tax revenue from medical... Fuck it.
I mean, they're still making enough money on it. They're taxing at a higher rate, it seems, than Colorado, and Colorado is making a ton of money. And they're also Colorado's making a lot of money from tourism now, people coming into the state and purchasing. And obviously, they're going to be recreational users, and I think that would be much bigger in California than it would be in Colorado.
Yeah, I mean, I have some numbers here. If you just look at the populations of the different states, right? California, we're at roughly 40 million people, which is crazy how big fucking California is. But anyway, and then combined, Washington, Colorado, and Oregon is only like 16.5 million. So I'm not sure if there's a discrepancy in the percentage of people that consume cannabis in those two states, but just by sheer population alone, we are massive. I mean, we're like, 60% bigger than the total rest of the market. It's pretty insane. So it really does make the regulations that happen here so crucial, because I think that will set the precedent for a lot of other states that will follow after that. Yeah. So another very interesting thing happened this week. DARE, which is the long-standing drug sort of education, anti-drug education program that has been in schools. I actually thought it was a California thing, but turns out that it's much bigger than that. Everybody went through, South Dakota went through DARE as well. And they've come out this week and finally admitted that cannabis is not a gateway drug, that it does not necessarily lead you into harder drugs, which to you and I or anybody else that smokes cannabis is pretty obvious. But do you see this as is this a big deal, or is this like finally kind of deal?
I think, until DARE actually gets to changing their whole program and the way that they're, disseminating this information, I don't think it's going to make a very big impact. Unfortunately, the problem with DARE is that there's so many different DARE chapters, maybe, that in every different city around the country, and they're teaching these kids that cannabis is bad, marijuana is bad, and as you said, like, it's a gateway drug. Yep. Once you try this one, you're just going to start doing meth and heroin, and your life is ruined forever. Yep. Obviously, that's not the case. As I started smoking a little bit earlier than I probably should have. Looking back at it, but I think I turned out fine and you turned out fine, and we're both not heroin addicts right now. So there is a lot of misinformation that they're spreading, and just getting that all in line and actually saying to each individual city and chapter that don't say anything bad about marijuana. Yeah. I feel like that's not going to happen anytime soon. Even if the website doesn't show marijuana as a gateway drug anymore, there's just so much information from these older generations that are teaching that they've got it burned into their mind that it's a bad thing, and we have to still continue teaching it that way.
Yeah, I mean, when I think about young people in this country, and I mean, we're young, but when I say that, I mean like high school kids, right? People that would be exposed to DARE. I mean, we have to give them just the most accurate information possible, because I mean, you can Google these things so easily. I have little sisters. What I try to impart on them is just give them the facts, right? Let them make the decision, right? So yeah, I smoke cannabis. I don't smoke cannabis in excess at some points. I don't do it all day, every day, because you need to do shit with your life, right? And I think that's kind of the theme that we have to inform people. Look, you can do heroin one time and die. You can, that happens, right? But no one smokes cannabis and dies. Like, there's a clear division there. It's cool that DARE's sort of coming around to see that, even if it's in small part. I mean, mostly DARE just informed me about, like what drugs would do to me, and like, kind of gave me a list of ones I wanted to try. But I think that's a different topic.
I think that, the thing going off what you said, the problem with DARE is that they're teaching based on scare tactics, right? They're saying if you try any drugs at all, this is a picture of what you're going to look like when you're in jail.
Right. Yeah.
And it's instead it should be more of an actual educational, like, these drugs are actually very bad for you. If they're going to talk about cannabis, it's still, I mean, I definitely don't recommend it for kids and people who are generally, it's looking like, and this is obviously another area where we need more research too, and more research dollars going into it. It's the same reason that drinking alcohol at a young age, it can slow the development of your brain. So theoretically, you should wait until your early 20s before you're using any substance, alcohol, marijuana, whatnot. And this is in an ideal world, and that's obviously not going to happen 100% of the time, and that's not something that I really want to be on the enforcing side of either.
Good luck.
Yeah, exactly. It's just not it's not realistic. But if we instead said that marijuana it's not going to kill you, it's not going to like cause you to start doing meth, but there could be some negative side effects from doing it at a young age. So therefore, we recommend that if you're going to try marijuana, you wait until you're 21. And that could be a more reasonable approach that DARE could take.
I think one of the other misconceptions that a lot of people have about cannabis is that it just immediately kills your motivation, right? Like, you have no drive to do anything in life. And while I won't say that smoking tremendous amounts of cannabis may improve your motivation, I think you and I are a pretty good testament as to the fact that you can smoke cannabis regularly in your life and still be very productive and have goals and all those other things. And I don't know, I mean, how do we kind of walk that line? How do we make it so that young people know you can smoke cannabis and have a productive life, but understand where your line is and when too much is too much?
Don't do it in excess and you'll be fine.
I think moderation is the key word there, yeah. And whatever moderation means for you. Right, it's different for everybody. Some people have a little bit of cannabis and it's too much. It's more than they ever wanted in their life, and that's fine. Other people seem to be able to function quite well on it. Yeah. Cool. Well, let's break from the education moment here for a second. Have a little fun. It's Saturday afternoon, so why not? What are you smoking on right now, man? What's your go-to?
So my favorite strain right now at the moment, I have it's called Green Dragon, and it's more of an indica, but it just makes me feel really good. Like I'm just in a happy mood. I'm just feeling great, and it's I can still function as a regular human after I consume that. So that one's kind of my.
We're talking about flowers, right?
Green Dragon flowers. Green Dragon is a strain, of flowers, and you just grind it up and roll it up. But I have a vaporizer as well that I use. I'm also.
Do you find that you use different mediums depending on the time of day?
It's not so much the time of the day, but rather where I am, like the environment that I'm in. Yeah. So like a vaporizer is a little bit more portable and easy to use, where you don't have to have all the equipment to roll it up and grind it up and whatnot. So and a lighter and all the things that are required for certain methods of consumption. But so the vaporizer is just more I have it on me, and it's great to
Yeah, it's my mobile solution. Also doesn't like make me as high, right?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
it's like, you know, it's a very functional sort of social. Are you still? Yeah, you have this one vape pen. I don't know if you're still using it, but with the USB mic pass through, micro USB pass through, which allows you to charge it and smoke at the same time, which I'm very envious of because I plug this in at my desk generally to charge it. And then we've got some bags here. Nice bag, by the way.
Thank you. Yes.
Crushing it. Look at all those cannabis dollars falling in.
Yeah. So this is the one. I don't actually know the brand of it, but
that's okay. They're not paying us, so.
Yeah, but I use this because it has the micro USB, which I can use my cell phone charger to plug it in. This one also has a variable voltage on it. I'm sorry, I'm kind of nerding out about this here because I'm interested in this, but you can actually change the voltage up and down. So if it's certain vapor cartridges, they don't work very well at a low voltage, they might need to increase it. Sometimes the vapor is a little bit too heavy and it comes out more as smoke. So in that situation, then you want to turn it down a little bit so it's not as heavy coming out.
Yeah, I find the massive layover from the tobacco, nicotine vapes is that they put out a voltage that's much higher than what cannabis wants. So I constantly am looking for a low voltage. I think like 3.2 is kind of nice. Like
3.3 I think.
Yeah, and some of the nicotine, in contrast, can be 4.2.
Yeah, some of them go as high as 5 volts.
Right? Yeah. So big difference there, and it particularly affects like the flavor, sort of it feels like it's burning. I guess. Yeah. But anyway, in particular, it's a little large. That's a little bigger
it's on the larger end,
than the one I rock here. I'm kind of sleek here. This is a W vape pen here. We should get them to sponsor.
Yeah, you should get them. I have W vape cartridge right here too.
Oh man, yeah, I haven't tried the cartridge. Aside from the business of cannabis, there's like this whole like entertainment, like entertainment world that's going on. Podcasts, I guess we play in that world. We try to educate, but we're also entertaining here. Like if you look around the industry, I mean, who are you really into? Like, is there a celeb that you follow?
I mean, obviously Snoop Dogg is one of my favorites.
Yep.
He's entertaining for obvious reasons, and I think if there was one celebrity I'd want to smoke with, it'd probably be Snoop Dogg. I think that'd be really fun.
Yeah. I think I'd pick Seth Rogen.
Seth Rogen, yeah, that could be.
He just seems like a dude like I would like,
Yeah.
He was just here.
Yeah, you can't not like Seth Rogen.
I mean, and we're not between the ferns today, but we're on either side of the fern. So like Galifianakis or Rogan, let us know. We'll talk about some cannabis. Seth Rogen did this interesting video where he demoed how to roll a joint. You saw that? Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks so much for watching, guys. Check us out all over the internets, all over the interwebs here. We're on Twitter, at Cannabis Pod on Instagram, investingincannabis.tv, Mass Roots, making a push on Mass Roots. Shout out to Isaac. Stitcher, we're on Stitcher. Mantis. We're getting all these video platforms. Mantis, shout out Cannabis Radio. We're trying to do a little thing over there. Yeah, it's dope, man. We're growing. Educating, get acquainted. Thanks for watching. See ya.
Investing in Cannabis is 100% independent media. Now, because we don't answer to a big corporation or we don't have a parent company, anything like that, we also need revenue to continue making the show and to continue bringing the quality content that you've been tuning into. And if you're tuning in, I really appreciate it. Thank you. I mean, I do this show exactly for people like you, people that maybe aren't prepared to let the whole world know that they smoke cannabis. They're not ready to come out of the green closet, but they still want to know. They're interested. They want to pay attention. They want to tune in. They want to get acquainted with what's going on. So there's this company called Patreon, this great startup here in San Francisco, and they allow you to donate small amounts of money every month to the followers, the artists, the people that you want to patronize, right? The people that you want to give money and support to continue creating the content that you love, right? And so that it doesn't change, so that it doesn't get over corporatized with a lot of sponsors, that it's your ability to just continue funding the things that you want to pay attention to. So what I'm asking you as the host of Investing in Cannabis is that you take the time and take a little bit of money and you invest in cannabis too. Even if you aren't in a position to come out to the world or you got a conservative job, if you're smoking cannabis, if you're enjoying it, just donate a little bit of money to us anonymously, right? So there's nobody else out there is going to know that. You can go to our Patreon page. We'll link it out for you right here, and just give $5-10 a month. I mean, you're buying that in weed anyway. So let's support the movement and let's all invest in cannabis.